Good morning. So just sing this back to me if you would. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Spirit, all three in one. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Spirit, all three in one. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Spirit, all three in one. Well, it's good to be together. And actually, if you grew up in a Lutheran church or a Roman Catholic church, you would be very familiar with what we just did. What we did had a couple of dynamics to it. I would suggest it's probably in the Orthodox church as well, very likely in the Presbyterian church, and that is we first remembered our baptism. And this practice goes back literally 1,800 plus years, that people would gather together and they would have the Trinitarian invocation as a way by which we would celebrate that we are family. That's the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened is that we actually did it. How many times did we sing that? 3. So if you have been part of these religious families, spiritual families, then you know as well, you can remember, Lord, oh boy, I'm not even going to be able to do it anymore, but Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. I mean, 3 times happened all over the place in this divine service. Why? Not because repetition is the best teacher, though it can be very helpful, but it's also a reminder of that we are connected to a God who's in relationship, who has revealed in the mystery and miracle, has revealed himself as Father, Son, and Spirit. And so this 3 is tied to that. Now, as a young person growing up, I must tell you, it really not only I missed it, it really, really stunk. How many of us, repeating this stuff over and over again, not only did not catch it, pretty much resented it. And so therefore, it's kind of a challenge. It's interesting, the work that must go on within the family to talk about why we do what we do. And so it's really great that you have set aside this time. Discipleship Hour kicks off in September, and it's just a very exciting time for us. I was so glad the Lord decided that the flood would happen on our building the week it did. I mean, good gravy, Lord, please, for goodness sake. School starting, early childhood starting, and Discipleship Hour starting. But as it all happened out, school did start, Early Childhood Center did open, and we were able to start Discipleship Hour last week. Praise God. So we are off and running, and I wanted to tell you that if you did not pick up your gift from the foundation board, I would highly encourage you to do so. It's out there waiting for you, and there's been a little bit of question in people's mind, what's the significance of 1 per family? That's correct. The foundation board has purchased 1 of these per family. However, if you come to Discipleship Hour, we want each of you to have your own book. And so you get to have your own book. And so if you have like the Rudolphs, 26 in their family, and now the Myrams are starting to head that direction as well, with baby Josie, who is at about 26 pounds. What is she? She was born at 10'8". Anyways, 1 per person for Discipleship Hour. It's great to be here together. And I'm going to talk for just a few minutes to get us rolling. This is from last week from Pastor Hesse. How many of us were not here last week, just so I can get an idea. I was told Jim was full last week. I'm going to have to tease him. He scared off some of you. But the reason I bring this in front of you is because it's really important to see what's going on goes beyond this book that was published between Lutheran Hour Ministries and Barna. If you were here a month ago in worship, you heard Katia, one of the Lutheran Hour Ministry sponsored missionaries in Lebanon. And we've had some very interesting family conversations since then, and I hope you are as well. And I'm hoping some of you are thinking, hey, we should stir up a mission society for support and partnership with her. But Lutheran Hour Ministries has this mission of bringing Christ to the church, Christ to the nations and the nations to the church. And that's been around for a long time, over 100 years. And St. John's mission is? So it's kind of neat this year of connecting that we're digging into, which fits very well with Lutheran Hour Ministries. Obviously, St. John's vision, discipleship in as many places as possible. This conversation with Lutheran Hour Ministries should not be seen as like happenstance. I was sharing with some of our folks when the country moved from print to radio. That was in the, just so you know, that was in the 1920s. From print to radio. And national broadcasting became prominent. Incidentally, University of Wisconsin was one of the early pioneers in broadcasting. But so was Lutheran Hour Ministries. 1930, Lutheran Hour Ministries started a international, the Lutheran Hour. I heard it this morning. It's still going on. In 1930, when radio was just a baby, we were there, Lutheran Hour Ministries. In the 1940s, television, after World War II, people actually started buying those boxes, and that was in the late 1940s, and get this, in 1952, the Lutheran Hour Ministry started broadcasting a show. Anybody know the name? Who's got it? Said, I just heard it. This is the Life. Anybody seen This is the Life? Hands up. Big, not many of us. You should, you know, that in the early days, they had Jack Nicholson. I've never heard of Buddy Ebsen, but I'm sure you're going to tell me who that is. Was he on Hee Haw? Beverly Hillbillies. Okay. All right. And then Leonard Nimoy. We know him from Star Trek. And many others who were on the original early shows of This is the Life. It ran all the way to 1988, but here's the kicker. 1952. Television was young, and there was Lutheran Hour Ministries. Now I share that with you because here, if you were in worship last week, we talked about the digital age coming afield in the late 1980s and 90s, and boy, since 2000 it's been in a reckless pace. It's crazy, but it's very exciting. This conversation in partnership has a 3-year timeline. There will be 3 of these books, and Pastor talked about this last week. The first one focuses really in many ways on personal discipleship. Watch this. Rich Buss, our president, picked up on this. Next year is on households of faith. What's that sound like? Congregational discipleship. And then third year, communities of action. What's that sound like? Community discipleship. It doesn't make it exact, but if you're following our mission and ministry plan, it's right there. We are right in line. I was grateful. We have a guest with us, Scott. He told me, he goes, hey, man, I read the book last night. I'm so glad to see a church is actually jumping into this. And we are full force. So, with all that said, this is the book. We're on chapter 2 today. And if you don't have your book, you can borrow a book for the day. You're going to need it. And I want you to start off in your small group discussion. And I need you to talk about what jumped out at you from either the discipleship hour last week, or the sermons you've heard, or your reading of chapter 1 or 2, or your ruminating, that's pondering, that was my mom's word, and cogitating, but I couldn't spell that, so I put up ruminating. So, what is going on in your cogitating, your ruminating, your conversations? Get in your groups and get to know each other, and we'll come back together in just a little bit. We have a lot of territory to cover. I'm not going to be able to give you as much time as I like, but please take advantage of this time. Go ahead and stay in your groups. I'll move around. I'd like to give you a chance to ask me questions or make comments. It would be intriguing to hear specifically if something jumped out last week. The topic was spiritual conversations and the landscape. So anybody have something that came out in your group that's noteworthy to share? Does anybody have something that is noteworthy to share with everybody else? Just put your hand up and I will take it from there. Anybody else? Anybody want to bring something to the group? The larger group. Okay, yeah, Cheryl.
Okay, so as I'm reading this and going through this with the digital age, one of my challenges, concerns is that, you know, when we put now our sermons online and everything, are we then, people are walking away from the physical church and the embodiment, the gifts? They're not getting the gifts. That's a concern.
So you're wondering, you don't know. You're wondering, yeah. Actually, that's a really great question. We're a little, in our congregation, we're a little behind about 20 years. So we do have the benefit of other places that have been doing this for a while. And Cheryl's observation is very, very real because our country has become isolated and very much about just go to the movie theater. People can watch it at home. Why go to the theater? So it is a real issue. So the digital age requires us to double down on relationships. We have got to make sure that, and we'll hear that, but we have got to understand the very important importance of the person.
If they're not in the church, you lose the audience, and they miss out on so much.
Yeah. So what Dick said, if they're not in church, the whole point is actually the church is defined, as Lutheran Christians, we define the church as those who gather around God's word and gifts. So I will tell you, that's what I'm saying. We have got to take ownership and responsibility. This is where the Amish, actually, if you watch, they will be very hard on American society because they say basically American society has rejected the concept of neighbor. And they will blame television for it. Because now people watch TVs instead of getting out of their house and going next door. They said, we don't watch TVs now. I'm not going to comment on that. That's like the Baptists saying, we don't drink beer. But the Amish say, we don't watch TVs because we actually walk next door and we check on our neighbors. Our neighbors are too important. So it's got to be a both. We have to understand there are some downsides to the reality in which we live. So in order for us to have spiritual conversations, we're going to have to take ownership for this. Dick, looks like you've got someone put the quarter in your back. There you go.
Unfortunately, the other thing that's happened is so many things take place on our weekends. Football games, even kids. Kids go to tournaments, basketball tournaments, that kind of thing. And it's, that's one of the reasons I think that our attendance here at church is.
Oh, absolutely. And again, Martin Luther would say, nothing holy about Sunday. We're going to have to, I'm telling you what, and I say this as a little pastor aside, if we don't take ownership to Wednesday night worship as being the option for us, we're going to quit using the resources. It's enormous amount of resources for people who miss worship on the weekend and don't see the need to come together on Wednesday night. It's just plain frankly foolish, but it really speaks to a bigger issue. The bigger issue is the busyness of our lives. We have to kind of get out of our where we live right now and at this time in which we live. And I need to tell you, we're not the first ones on the globe. We're going through the same thing every other generation has gone through. Luther bemoaned the drop in worship attendance in his era. I don't know if it was the Gutenberg press. Maybe they started printing things and then, I don't know. But yeah, this is a big deal. Other things that came out of your talks, anything else that came up? The reason I tell you this is because I'm teaching 2 of the 4 weeks, and I will say to you what I say to my young adults at Concordia. You know, we have curriculum, we have material, I've got all kinds of stuff I've prepared, but you are the curriculum. You need to understand, you come into this room, you have questions, I'm going to do the best I can to deal with them. So bring your questions, bring your comments, let's work through this together. This is a really important conversation, and it's going to be going on all year. So if I don't hear anything else, anybody going once? Going twice. We got more small group activity. We'll catch you at the next one. All right, let's jump into the book. The book is on chapter 2. It's found on pages 33 to 47. If you're a person that likes to look in the book, you'll be able to do that while I'm talking. But I need to give you a couple of pieces of information that are going to help you to understand some of the language of the book. I used to use the language of builder, but the book uses the language of elders. The elders are those born before 1946. Could I have those that are born before 1946 put your hands in the air? Really high. Okay. Now, if you can reach that high. Oh, I am terrible. All right. Boomers are those between 1946 and 64. Put your hands in the air. All right. We are the big rat and the snake. So this is very typical in society. There are more boomers on the earth than there are in this country. At least coming down the path, we have another big one. Oh, doggone, I lost it back there. All right, Gen X, anyone between 1965 and 1983, put your hands up there. Wow, we have as many Gen Xers in this room as we do boomers. All right, and then finally, the millennials, those are 84 to 98. Who are you? Put your hands up. Woo! All right. And this is actually interesting. I wish this could have been done last week. I'd have been intrigued to see how it worked out. I firmly believe I don't know, what time do the Packers play today? You kill me as a nation. You just kill me. You know, last week, packed in here, I'm sure now people are, gotta get the house ready. I'm going to root for the Vikings just because of that. Absolutely. Count on it. That's right. Yeah, go Bears, exactly. Oh, torture me. All right, yes, Lori.
Just tell me, because there's another after this.
Yes, those are, I'm just going there next. Thank you. Yeah, no, on there, but because we have some of them in the room. That's Generation Z. Those are people that were born after 1998. So who are the Generation Z people? Put your hands up in here. Look at this. No, Gen Y. Is it Y? Yeah, it's Y. Excuse me, Gen Y. Excuse me. You guys know who you are. Very good. Hey, great to see you. It is Z. Yeah, it is Z. The next one after that is Y. But that's what little Josie is. All right, so this will help you out here. Just knowing. So going forward, this is not in the book, it's referenced, but I wanted to give you the website. I would write this down. I would encourage you, if you are interested, to actually become you can become a member of this online conversation. It is an example of what Lutheran Hour Ministries is doing. I must tell you, this is remarkable because the numbers of people, and next week you can ask Dr. Cook when he comes here, the number of people that are involved in this and people that are not Christians who are on site saying, hey, I've got questions. I really don't like the churches in my neighborhood. Tell me what's wrong with them. And just interesting to hear. Go on Thread. We have a personal relationship with it because one of the principal staff members was a very, very close friend of Molly, our eldest daughter. And so she is doing some phenomenal work. And she's a graduate of Concordia, Wisconsin, just a super, super gal. And then you can dig into it. Yes. They have a Facebook page, that's true. Yes. Very good. Are you on it? All right, Amy's on it. All right. Anybody else here that's been involved with Thread? Brian has? Anybody else? You've been on it? Okay. Mrs. O? All right. Very good. Well, let's keep moving. We have territory to cover. I don't have the page on this, but this is God on the internet. And digital interactions are changing how we talk to each other about our faith, for better and for worse. Now, look at this. 28% of identified Christians share their faith via social media. That means 28% of Christians say, I use social media to share my faith. All right? 30% of self-identified Christians say they're just as likely to share their religious beliefs online as in person. They are 12% are more likely to share their faith digitally. 58% of non-Christians say someone has shared their faith with them through Facebook. 14% through other social media. 31% of self-identified Christians use digital media communications when sharing their faith with non-Christians, email, links, videos, Facebook, etc. 47% of Christians agree technology and digital interactions have changed how they respond how others respond when I share my faith. They say that people respond differently now, 47%, because of the digital world that we live in. And then 44% say technology and digital interactions have changed how they share their faith. Excuse me while I kill a mosquito. All right. I'm going to keep moving. We have a lot of material to cover. If you happen to have the page of these, this is a big one. A considerable majority of all U.S. adults say they use Facebook. 84%. Practicing Christians appear to be especially fond of the platform, with 9 out of 10 reporting they use it. 6 percentage points more than non-practicing Christians, and 11 more than non-Christians. 90% of Christians in the United States say they use Facebook. Now, that ought to cause us to step up and think. 90% of Christians say they use Facebook. I'm a little awkward doing this because I will tell you, I have a funny feeling I'm going to, let's just try it. How many of us have in the last year used Facebook? Put your hands in the air. Okay, let's do this differently. How many of us have not in the last year? Now look up there, incidentally, none of our young lads. All right. Now, I'm not making any evaluation. I just think we need to be aware of this. So let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Boy, I'm not going to like this. All right. So this gives us all of the platforms of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, and none. 9% of the population say they use none. All right? Now, let's look at that. Are there any of us that would fit in that 9% we use none for social media? Put your hand in the air. 1, 2. Yeah. Yeah, that's not a social media. So hands up for none. All right, so look around. There's some of us. And by the way, I'm putting my hand up with you on the ones that apply to me. All right, let's keep moving. Oh, good. I want you to talk. What ways do you use social media? You can, this can be quick, so you need to choose one of the following, all right? So stay connected with friends, family, get the news, counsel and encourage other, keep organizations you like, keep up with them, share your faith, or other. And by the way, putting pictures of your grandkids goes under A. So have at it, get to your group. All right, go ahead. All right, we've got to keep going. We've got territory to cover. I probably had the most interesting conversation of all because I had the four amigos over there, and interesting to hear what they use and why they use what they use. I would encourage you to be in these conversations. I asked this question to my class at Concordia, which is basically 18 to 21-year-olds. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. So these are common ways Christians share their faith, according to the book. And they post a Christian symbol as your profile picture, include a Bible verse in your personal information, sharing faith-based articles, sending encouragements and prayers in response to friends' posts. And this is an example from the Good Doctor. So you probably can't read this. I don't know what page it's on. Anybody have the page? So you can look at it in the book. What page is it on? Huh? You don't remember it? It's not in the book? Okay. You can read it.
I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen. Not only because I see it, but because by it I see everything else. C.S. Lewis.
So here's an example where Cook quotes a noted author and apologist. Interestingly, I brought this up to at my Concordia class, and I have 30 students in the class. I'd say 3 of them had heard of C.S. Lewis. 3. Then, when I said Chronicles of Narnia, more hands went up. And then when I said The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, yeah, I know. That started them all talking. They had all seen the movies and most of them had read the books, but they didn't know that was C.S. Lewis. And then they did know C.S. Lewis's mentor, and boy, you have to help me out here. Is it, I know his last name is Tolkien. What's his first, what is it, initial? J.R.R. J.R.R. What I shared with them, which was shocking, again, 18 to 21-year-olds, none of them would have associated C.S. Lewis or J.R.R. Tolkien as Christians. And yet both of them were Christians who used what was an art, a medium at their time, for communicating the faith. So think about this. How have people before us used their gifts to communicate the faith through different mediums? So this is just how Tony Cook said, hey, he put it on there, and then, you know, that's just an example of how you might choose to use this old person tool called Facebook, according to the people on the bleachers. All right, let's go. although they did help me, it was interesting. They shared that on Facebook, one of them was Simon, was that you that said it's what is it called? Personal messaging, Simon? Or?
It's called Facebook Messenger.
Facebook Messenger. That's what most of my students use. Facebook Messenger. And it's private, protected, etc. So this is the data on it, and I do know this is in the book. How Christians share online. Profile image, profile information, personal posts, sharing others' posts, comment on other posts or walls. Notice, I couldn't help but notice as you look at these other personal posts, sharing others' posts, you almost can start to make some interpretational conclusions based off of this. What are some of the conclusions? That profile image, profile information, but then getting out a little further, more people, the posts are conversations. So what does this tell us? We are by nature relational. Connection is just critical for anybody and everybody, right? And we're probably all a little bit uneasy about initiating, right? Being too far out there. Let's keep moving. Oops. Yep, because this is something we need to address, and we need to move quickly. What are some of the challenges that you see and experience because of the digital age? What are some of the challenges you see and experience because of the digital age? I wonder if we could do this as a big group, because it would help us keep on moving. What are some that we see? Anybody who's going to go out there, what are some challenges? All right, go ahead.
Different types of social media. Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat. You know, which one do you pick to communicate with people?
So
Just so many different options. Okay. What's another challenge or experience? Yep. And by the way, for everybody's benefit, just say your name, and that was Matthew.
I'm Amanda. It's like a highlight reel. You see the best parts of everybody's life, but not reality.
If you have not done any research on this, lots have been written. She called it the highlight reel, which basically means it has really created an enormous amount of self-questioning, doubt, and feelings of inferiority, because what you're looking at you think is real, and it's only the highlight. All right, anything else? Yep, back here. So, by the way, the issues of the flood are real. We have our technology's been disrupted in this building and elsewhere, so I'm doing this.
I'm Melissa. I would say being an elementary teacher, seeing the difficulties that children have with just communicating in person with each other, and then how that carries over into their ability to write and to read also.
Oh. Thank you from the educator. Very, very good. Yes. All right. We're going down the line.
you are.
Marsha, along that same lines is just understanding, relating with teenagers or young people, that this is the way that they communicate, and they're familiar with it with each other, but as adults, to adjust to how we communicate with young people, if that's not the way we were used to, but accepting it as well, and then transitioning into that.
Good. Anybody else? Yes, yes, and you are?
My name is Joy. I think you lose so much by not being able to see facial features and clear tone of voice and body language when you're just reading something and interpreting it what you want.
You know, that's an interesting one. I had that one in my head, but I couldn't help but wonder if that's what they were saying when phones and letters. How do you interpret a letter? We figured that one out, right? We figured out phones. But have you ever had a phone call where you've been talking to somebody and just kind of wonder what's going on the other end. All right, yeah, good. There was one over here. Yeah.
Dan Barris, I was just thinking about the possibility of false teachers and false teachings that would be available like through Facebook and some of the other media. I mean, it's all over the internet. You can get false teaching there, and you would surely get it on Facebook or some of the other ones as well.
And what's the word called? Predator? Fake news. I was more concerned, and again, I will say I'm concerned about fake news, but the predator issue is a real issue.
And Kim, I think the ramifications of things that you say now come back to haunt you later, that, these sports figures and people all of a sudden in their high school years or something that came in that you thought was private. It's not private, it's something.
Wow, we are finding some, Scott over here, last one, and then I'm going to speak. But you guys have got your finger all over this. By the way, this is a big deal because we are living in a time where, quite frankly, our grandparents and some of you in this room, hey, if you didn't want your parents to know, you found ways that they wouldn't know. And if you think that young people aren't going to do that, now, come on. So now this is all part of it. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, I'm Scott. I think if you look at the leadership of organizations, whether they're churches, whether they're schools, businesses, whatever, the leaders are often in the boomer category right now, and the extent of the blind spot that boomers like myself have with respect to how millennials and other generations communicate and understand is massive. And that's really affecting the way we encourage and bring people into the school.
Thank you. I will tell you, talk to Pastor Hesse. It's one of the probably significant influences in why I want to retire. It's real. It is really, if you're a leader, I'm sure you feel that responsibility. It is hard.
This ties, Mike, sorry. This ties in with face-to-face, but conflict management, I think, suffers tremendously because it's very easy to bash someone and not try to resolve, through Facebook or some of those medias. Yeah.
Good. All right. Yep. Oh, you bet. It's always great to see the ladies start us off, and then the men are coming in.
My name is Al. With the digital age, I think we are seeing a complete lack of depth. You cannot have a meaningful, deep discussion in 168 characters on Twitter or in a Facebook post. You can have 1,378 friends, but your relationships may be a mile wide. They're an inch deep. There is no substitute for having a personal connection, personal relationship with somebody, and I just think the digital age makes it so easy to have so many connections, but have so many connections have a complete lack of depth.
So we're sharing our perspectives on this. This is important. There are probably many other things that we could say, but I want to bring us back to the book. If you notice, this is data from Barna. It's divided up by millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers. The Gen Xers are at the top bar, the millennials are at the top bar, Gen Xers the middle, the boomers the bottom. It's harder to have a private, one-on-one conversation now than in the past because people are so busy with phones and technology. Interestingly, the boomers aren't so sure compared to the rest. All right, let's go on. People are more likely to avoid real spiritual conversations than they were in the past because they're so busy with technology. All right, keep moving. Technology and digital interactions have changed how others respond when I share my faith. I want you to note the millennials. I shared this in the sermon last week. They are leading the way on responsibility being in the baptized to talk about the faith. They're actually going to, I would suggest that 50 to 70 years, our country's landscape will have changed so dramatically. And thank the Lord that these people, I hope that they are not thwarted down by politics or economy. They will actually the word of the Lord will continue to grow in the United States because of their understanding of relational. So let's keep moving. Did I do this one? Technology and digital interactions have changed how others respond when I share my faith. All right, let's keep moving. There's one. People are more likely now than in the past to see me as offensive if I share my faith. And then, oh, I just love technology. Technology and digital interactions have made sharing my faith easier. Interesting. Gen X probably leads the way there. Okay, this is an important one. Based on people who have shared views of faith and religion in the last 5 years. I have shared, someone has shared with me. 92% say they've done it in person. They've either shared it in person or they have received it in person. Jacob, should I have someone over there doing that for us? There's a button there you can push. Facebook, I have shared 43%. Someone has shared with me 59%. Phone, over the phone, 32%, 30%. Keep going. By text, 28, 26. Spreading something others write, 24, 27. So here's the conclusions, and I want us to pause here for a moment. It's still, according to Barna and Lutheran Hour Ministries, face-to-face is really the primary means by which people in this country share the faith. And remember, we talked about spiritual conversations. The average American has one a year. Christians, it's about one a month. In the foreseeable future, though, the ability to have meaningful life conversations about spiritual matters is still a skill each Christian needs to develop. So I'm going to tell you right up front and give you the bold, bodacious goal that is the goal for our staff, and that is that all of our ministry groups would, when they meet, would do what our leadership board has been doing for years, and spiritual health ministry team. And that is just check in with each other and share what's God's doing in your life. The staff's been doing this for 14 years. And Lori, you remember the early days, don't you? And the second goal is that you pray out loud. You learn how to pray out loud for the people around you. Now, God hears your prayers, whether they're prayed out loud or inside, silently. He knows your prayers, whether you write them or don't write them, do ex corde. But I want you to know it's going to be critical for us, from my knot as a congregation, to see the value of being engaged in this manner. And I would encourage you to make this a goal for yourself. I have personally experienced this for 30 years in the ministry, and having served as a missionary in California, I can guarantee you the culture of that mission was set because we had those goals. And by the way, that was back in 1991. So, talk with each other, listen, more importantly, listen to each other, pray for each other. All right, second. So it looks like when you look at the data more closely, we're going to have to understand that we are in the digital age, and it is coming more and more. I think Scott said, hey, the business world has known this for a long time. And the truth be told, we're going to have to gain some wisdom. Because what was said earlier by Kim, it's out there forever. You make a comment on one of these social medias, you might as well own it, because it's going to be brought back to you. So we need to get some wisdom on how to handle ourselves. Incidentally, when we were children, we were taught this. My wife pulled out a stupid little book for our kids And it had little stick figures. Mary, what in the heck was the name of that book at the table on manners that you used? Are we getting that old? You're cute. They had two names, the two characters on
the Dick and Jane's book.
Dick and Jane's book on manners. That's what we use with our kids. Well, we've got to do this stuff with how do we handle ourselves with social media. Thirdly, this is a little bit of a follow-up on the second one, but I wanted to bring it back because this is how they had that this whole notion of, if you will, how we're going to not only communicate, but how we're going to interpret people. I thought that was an interesting additional piece to this that's out of the book. And then the final one, which could you take us there? Thanks so much, Noel. This is the one that I had already heard and been introduced to, and that is whether or not they're telling you our young adults are facing difficulty. And sometimes they don't admit it till after they've already been in it. But there are all kinds of challenges in the world. Come on, guys. And we've got a couple of minutes and then we're going to close off. I need to tell you, we all remember the temptations and challenges and difficulties. This is not just issues of morality. There are those. But there are also issues of dealing with self-esteem and how do they relate with each other and how do they see themselves. And that was brought up. By the way, not by a boomer. And there are other issues. And we've got to understand the important role that we all play together in this conversation. And that church family has to be family. Ironically, the research shows that young people, they want old folks around them. And by the way, this is one of them, an old folk. So if you're my age or older, you're old. So own it and see the value. And if you do not take responsibility for this, I don't want to embarrass them, but I will tell you, the Terps have said this. I've heard them say over and over again. We remember how the people in Florida helped us out. We want to help young couples out. We've got to take ownership of this together, what it means to be family. So this is, again, they put together a lot of these materials. I would love for you to kind of think about what are some of the insights. Tony's going to be with us next week. That's Dr. Cook, head of Lutheran Hour Ministries for North America. He was on this morning's Lutheran Hour spiel. Determine insights, how they impact your spiritual conversations, what we've talked about today. And then develop actionable steps based upon what you've heard. What that means is you've got to work in this. We've just started the conversation. There are no holes to climb into. You can absent yourself by choice and miss out on the profound ways that the Spirit is at work. I teased him in worship last week. I said Dick was 96 years old, but I was so struck by he putting his hand up when we talked about all these different mediums. And incidentally, when we had our leadership staff, who had his hand up? Pastor Hesse. The guy is on the cutting edge. I'm like, you kill me, man. We have to understand the value for us to be involved in this in ways that are meaningful. Next week, and over the next few weeks, it's important. I don't know how to get the word out, but boy, I'll tell you what, we will miss out if we do not get this room packed for Tony Cook next week. and it was packed last week. Please help. I think you should send something out on, what do you say, guys? What should they use? You said what? You said Twitter for your friends? Is that what you, no, Snapchat. Snapchat. For those of you that are Snapchat people, send it out to your Snapchat folks. And for the rest of you that are Facebook, use your Facebook. For those of you that pick up the phone and fill up the room so that Tony Cook can talk with us about these ongoing conversations, spiritual conversations. And then I wanted to give you a heads up. The fourth week I'll be back. The town hall meeting is really so important because that's how this all came to the surface a year ago anyways, right in this room. And I wanted to get you thinking ahead about our breakout sessions. We're doing something different this year, and I'm going to share it with you now, and I'll share more with you later. We're going to, we have heard, especially from our younger parents, we need a place to go. We will bring our kids and take them to Bible study or children's discipleship. We won't even go out for breakfast if you will give us a place to just talk. To be able to come in a room and be able to talk about life. And guess what? We're going to do that. We're going to start that. It's called Life Connections. It's not just for young parents, but it's going to be open for people just to come in and talk about life. And by the way, do some of that stuff, hopefully over the year that I set, but that's not going to be on the agenda the first day. It will be facilitated every week. And I'm looking forward to that. I think it's taking place in the library. Faith in the Family, we are doubling down on these conversations we're having with baptism families. The pastors are now every week going to be teaching how do you disciple your young people and preparing them to confirm their own faith. It's going to be every week a pastor in front of this group of folks. We are investing enormous hours with these young people and families. We want to do it when they're younger. Pastor is going to be teaching Esther, and he's all excited and already has his material ready. I'm talking about Pastor Ron. Then we're going to use one of the resources that Lutheran Hour Ministries has available because there are just tons of resources available for us. And so we're really excited about our breakouts, which will start in about a month. For now, some things have not changed, right? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Stand up and let's join in the family prayer. Lord, remember us in your kingdom and teach us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. We need help putting up chairs. And I want to give a shout out to Kathy West. I don't see Paul here, but Kathy and her husband Paul have been doing online mission work for a decade. So if you want to talk about online mission work, talk to Kathy and Paul West. Praise God.